Good morning, I'm Peggy Van de Plasch. I am the author of Paris Mushrooms and Me, a memoir on microdosing psychedelics. So on my videos, you can hear about personal transformation, mental health, and all things related to living an authentic life. So a few days ago, the Financial Times published a very interesting article on workplace well-beings. And more precisely on the increase in work-related stress and mental issues. So this was really a perfect timing for this newsletter, following on my previous edition. I wrote and published a couple of videos on corporations. Are they gaslighting psychopaths? But also the link with our environment, with fear and mental health. So I realized that these last two pieces have pushed the buttons for many of you. And, this was really a necessary evil to set up the stage in order to discuss our health, mental, and physical. The first step to a better health is to know what difficulties we are facing and what our current state is. So by looking in details at the challenges in our environment, we can be more alert in order to detect the negative impacts they might have on our health. So it's always very interesting for me to discuss with reformed corporate employees. We realize that they have been experiencing anxiety, high level of stress, and the full gamut of mood, sleep, and digestion disorders. And they were not even aware of that. So yes, we need to talk about the negative environments some of us have to deal with in order to properly assess our mental health situation. And these environments can be work, but also, and unfortunately not mutually exclusive, our home, school, religious community, family, friends, and so on. Many environments can be actually negative for us. So repressing our emotions and thoughts when it comes to the challenges we are facing, and these challenges might impact our health, is not helpful. And it will likely create more negative impacts on our health. So I was one of these people who realized very late that I had mental health issues. I just had lived with these issues for so long that I thought they were my normal state of being, because these patterns were very, very familiar. But that didn't mean that I had to live with them forever. So I've had always powered through anxiety, depression, stress, phobia. I was never one to avoid doing something because of the internal turmoil that was created. So my world didn't get smaller, but it became exhausting and challenging until I really couldn't take it anymore. Other people make a different choice, which is trying to control their environment to avoid any problematic situations. So they make their sandbox smaller and smaller, and it's still draining the life out of them. So the exact cause of mental illness is not known. It is becoming clear, though, that the conditions are caused by a combination of biological, psychological, and environment factors. So for the longest time, I believed that mental illness was binary. You were whether ill or not, and that the only driver was genetics. Was I wrong, or was I really, really wrong? So from social or cultural expectations, death, divorce, to emotional abuse, low self-esteem, unresolved traumas, all of that can contribute to mental health challenges over the course of one's life. Had I known that earlier, I would have looked into my mental health before I was in my mid-40s. So what I have been realizing more and more doing this work is the massive impact of authenticity on mental health. The more inauthentic our lives, the more mental challenges we will face, and vice versa. So how does our authentic self get derailed? Well, unsurprisingly, this starts with childhood conditioning. Most of us, and maybe all of us, have to give up who we are, or in the best case scenario, piece of who we are, to stay connected to our caregivers, usually our parents. To survive, a child very quickly learns that listening to parents, teachers, and other authority figures is non-negotiable. So depending on the environment we are raised in, that might need a very large abandonment of who our authentic self is in order to fit in and be accepted, even if it's just a conditional acceptation. So this is when we start doubting our inner feelings and thoughts to the benefit of the external dogma, hiding and pushing down our emotions, believing that someone else outside of us knows better than us what is good and appropriate for us. And I am not referring to a kid who wants to eat a third ice cream or run outside without a coat in January in Montreal. I am referring to core beliefs. A good example, which is very close to home, would be a child who is denied the expression of her needs and wants because it's inconveniencing her caregivers. She will grow up thinking that her needs are selfish and that she should not want anything for herself. So this cognitive dissonance between her acquired, you should not ask or receive anything, and our authentic desire for self-actualization will create a deep, deep internal tension that can turn into mental illness such as anxiety and depression. So I came to see most of us, again, all of us probably, as suffering from some sort of self-love deficit disorder. Self-love deficit disorder is a term coined by Ross Rosenberg. He's the founder of the Self-Love Recovery Institute. Very interesting body of work. So this foundational feeling of not being good enough if I am my authentic self might not be obvious to many, as we have learned to live with this little voice for so long, but nonetheless, it can create serious mental challenges, especially when we're facing hostile environments. So you can look at, what has been called a midlife crisis as actually people trying to recover their authentic self and heal their self-love deficit disorder. So the frequent mental illness that one can and will likely experience at some point or another in their life, and to various degree, can be anxiety, stress, depression, addictions. If you look at the physical health challenges, so in Western medicine, our physical health tends to be looked at in isolation, as if our body parts were independent of one another. However, our body is a whole. One organ is impacting the next, and that triggers a cascading effect over time. So mental and emotional pain can also create physical pain. And in parallel, greater mental health generally equates to greater physical health too. So you can see, the physical health is actually extremely impacted by the mental and the emotional health. Heal Your Body by Louise A. Is a very, very interesting body of work that is linking physical ailments to mental causes. And accordingly, the frequent physical ills one can and likely will experience at some point or another in their life, and to various degrees, would be back pain, sleep disorders, digestive issues, headaches. As an example, shoulders, neck, and upper back pain are usually seen as linked with too much responsibility and not enough support. So the key takeaways for this video is really, one, mental health challenges can be unbeknown to us. We can be not aware that we have mental health challenges. Second, mental illness comes from multiple causes, including hostile environment. People who live more authentically are prone to greater psychological well-being. Fourth, childhood conditioning derails our authentic self. Self-love deficit disorder is real and painful for most of us. Midlife crisis might be an attempt to recover our authentic self. Mental and emotional pain can create physical pain. and specific physical ailments have been linked to some mental causes. So next week, I will explore how to recover our authentic self. So please comment and question. I really want that to be a dialogue. I believe it's important to be in the open, and I really appreciate you listening. Have a wonderful day.